here is John Bradley.
Next up we have Rose Leslie.
Oh yeah! Oh my wife.
Oh, sweet fucking Jesus. Marry me.
Christopher Kit.
Oh.
Got Sophie Turner.
Natalie Dormer.
Oh, she saved the
And a fella named George R.R. Martin.
Of course it's okay. If I'm coming to the time, I'm sitting next to no good girl.
Maisie Williams.
Rory McCann.
What did I say before the camera? I was like, I hope the house.
Gwendolyn Christie.
I like it.
Nikolai Kosterwald.
Pedro Pascal.
And finally, our excellent moderator, Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson.
What about David Bennett?
That's them.
Thanks very much indeed for saying that. Personally, who's not really telling the truth. I'm very happy to be here, everyone. Thank you, David and Dan, for introducing me last after these people camp out all night to see these people, and then at the very end, me. I thought you understood the dramatic structure. It's very nice to be here. Welcome to San Diego.
Will's vagina!
Which, as we know, is as far south as south goes. Remember that's from season 2, isn't it? Far south as south. I thought you guys knew about that. Welcome to the big one. Now, of course, we're all here to celebrate Game of Thrones. I understand that many of you people today will know this show better than I do. Of course, these people do, and certainly you will. I know there are people who are fluent in Dothraki out there right now, but remember, we're all on the same side. How often do you get to see each other? At any point, there are all these different worlds that you exist. Do you guys ever get to hang out together?
In the bar.
In the bar? Is there a bar, like somewhere that isn't in the title sequence that pops out if you know the right place to go?
It's like the Star Wars bar, but it's Game of Thrones.
I can imagine probably is.
White Walkers.
The thing is, I'm surprised to see you here, Rory, given your what happened and as you were left on the mountainside.
Yeah, so I'm still sore. I can't believe it. I'm here just. Yeah, things weren't looking too good the last time I saw myself. So.
I thought he got off lightly.
That's a good question.
Which one, like me or her?
I believe I've been pooped between. Very uncomfortable.
Yeah. When you began the creation of all
I wanna ask-
this
I wanna make
world
the
of
same.
Westeros and all
George,
of
can I
the
ask you a
attendant
question?
stories that happen around, did you envisage anyone to look like these people? Does it look like the world that first thought of? Does it feel like it?
Well, more or less, but of course not exactly. I mean, I started this in 1991, and the show, I didn't even have my first meeting with David and Dan until 2007, I believe it was. So there were like 16 years before the show was a twinkle in anyone's eye, and I had very strong pictures of what Westeros looked like and what the characters looked like, but these people have brought the characters to like, amazingly.
Does it affect your writing sense when you watch the show and you continue to write? Does it inform what you do now?
Not really, because I do have those 16 years that sort of took deep root before the show came along. Sometimes it gets a little tricky, but the show is the show, and the books are the books, and I try to keep them separate. I know a few of the actors have read the books, but many of them don't.
Can I ask which actors here were reading the books before they became cast members on the show? Is that something that you all do? Or not, as the case may be. It certainly isn't a prerequisite, obviously. You guys clearly were fans of the books, right? When did you first come in contact?
My first, it was about 8 years ago.
8 years ago.
And how,
That's a long time.
it is a long time. And how did you manage to get it going with, because clearly this is something that costs a great deal of money to put together. How did you manage to talk HBO into this?
First, we had to talk George into it.
Right.
Sorry, because some of you have probably heard the story before, but we had a very long lunch with George where we told him what we wanted to do with the adaptation. And we had a 3-hour talk. At the very end of it, George said, okay, who is Jon Snow's real mother?
Oh.
There was a very long pause, and I looked at Dan, and Dan looked at me, and we threw out a guess. And
I know what they
he didn't say yes or no, we sort of nodded, and
John Bean
then
pretty
he
much
let us
straight up.
take the show.
Did he?
Who is Jon Snow's real name?
Oh, that's fucked.
It's so awkward.
Could be, or else it's not. Oh, never mind. All right.
Great.
Well, that's good. And so you shoot most of the time, and do you all shoot in Belfast all the time? Is that where you make everything?
No, we shoot in Belfast through the entire shooting season, but we also have other foreign locations which vary from year to year. This year it's going to be Croatia and Spain, and past years we've been in Malta, and Morocco, and Iceland.
The subject matter of the show can be, from time to time, quite controversial. Is that something that, sometimes you go to a conservative area, perhaps where they aren't happy, when they find out it's you guys that filmed that?
That happened this year.
Yes.
Lost the
it does.
location.
I feel like, though, if the Bible thumpers stopped thumping the Bible for a minute and read it, they would see there's just as much incest in there.
We lost the location this year to a man who did not want his property to be involved with porn of Thrones.
You mean Game of Thrones?
The views expressed by David Dan, where I represent my own for legal reasons. So, may I ask by a show of hands who's still left alive in the cast? Let's see, yes, about halfway. Do you, if I may ask first the actors who are still with us, does it concern you when you receive the scripts that, this may be it? Does it worry you that you...
Yeah, I mean, some of us know roughly what happens in the books to our characters, but I know that David and Dan have killed characters that are still alive in the books, and vice versa, so we never really know. So I just suck up to both David and Dan and George, just hope for the best, really.
That's horrible. I'm sorry.
The key lesson for the actors is never ask for a raise.
Seems like for that. Now, I think what we're going to do, I believe, is that we have some new cast members that you wanted to talk about as well. Is that right?
Sure, yes. We big season coming up, a whole bunch of new characters, and we thought they would say hello to you themselves, so.
happens now.
Be getting attached to and watch Die Horribly over the next 18 months. I don't really want to take up a whole lot of time from this panel today, not giving you a chance to talk, because obviously there are a great many members of the cast here. So rather than me talking, I want to kind of throw it to the floor quite quickly so that we can get as many questions as possible for the fans who have waited, as you say, overnight. So can we start putting that together right away? And when you come up to ask this, please identify yourself and speak coherently.
What house do you most
Yes,
closely associate
yes,
with?
Dave.
If you do us a favor and don't ask us what's going to happen next season.
Oh yeah, no, obviously there'll be no spoilers here. And also, if you do know what happens in the books and that you want to ask questions about stuff that hasn't reached that point in the series yet, grow up.
I had drills. Fundraising for Wolf Central and
Very good. You're all friends.
But like that's a good
You're all
like
unsullied
non-douchey
away,
question.
aren't you? I know I am.
Anything.
All right, sir. May I ask your name and what your question is?
My name is Rick, and my question is for Mr. Martin. As the creator of this universe, I'm wondering if there's any of the many gods or deities that you want to closely associate yourself with. And if I may suggest one, perhaps the many-faced god, because you kill utter impunity.
I have plenty of impunity. No, I don't think I choose any one god over the other. And my reputation for killing is exaggerated. As I like to point out, that David and Dan are far bloodier than I am, and they've killed a number of characters who are still alive in books. So, yes. I may only be the second-ranked murderer here on the panel. But no, I think religion is an important part of the world and should be depicted, but I'm not about to endorse one Westerosi religion as true over the others.
No, he said David and
There you are.
he said the two
George is
directors'
the
names.
second best killer on the panel. Yes, may I ask what your name is? Young lady?
Hi, my name is Lila.
Hi, Lila.
Lila Mateo.
Are you Dothraki? You've got lovely hair.
Maybe. My question is for Kit Harington.
He's got lovely hair.
Even though you know nothing, Jon Snow.
It's true. It's true.
I wanted to ask you, what do you do to prepare for your roles on the wall, before battle scenes, also freezing cold, and just what do you do beforehand to prepare?
I think with Thrones, it's weird. A lot of the work is done for you before you even get there. And I think a big part of that for me is costume. Because we have such wonderful costumes on this show that when I put it on, and it's got a certain weight to it, gives a certain gravity, that I it's weird. I'm about to go back and start my first day on Monday, which is really exciting. I've got a great scene, but it's odd. I've just had my hair dyed and everything, and I get back into that costume, and it's very very grounding. That's kind of how I kind of fall into Jon Snow. It's not very exciting.
And the hair products, right?
Second.
The hair products?
Hair products, yeah, many hair products.
I can ask the same of John and Rose, who are north of the wall with you as well. You guys, are you working in heavy costume? Is it always that cold? That do you have to act cold in those?
No, I mean we were in the northern part of Iceland for the majority of season 2 and 3, and so it was absolutely freezing. So there's very little acting involved when we were cold. But no, I mean there were times when we were shooting like -40. But we had these thermals underneath the costume, so that definitely. And then you had a big fat cloak on. So that helped. But no, it is beautiful. It was mesmerising being in Iceland, but it kind of cold. It kind of wakes you up and makes sure that you.
Yeah, I don't envy you it at all. The same for you?
Yeah, I think that what this show really excels in is putting the actors into the same environment as the characters perform. So if the characters are that cold, you tend to be that cold. When we were in Iceland especially, we thought that we were walking on the ground. We were actually walking on 5 feet of compacted snow. So if you get my costume, which weighs a fair amount on its own, put me in it, which is never going to help anything, and then have me charging across a place who'd been chased by a camera on a quad bike. Chances are that by the end of the day, I've been driven into the ground like a tent peg. and you know, people say, oh yeah, but those costumes must really keep you warm, and they do, but from the neck down. And as an actor, your tool, pardon the expression, is your face is your tool, which
That means something different here.
I'll reiterate Craig's sentiments, grow up. But you find your performance completely compromised because you can't be subtle at all because your face is freezing up, literally freezing up. And at minus 35, you're at work and you think, okay, if I'm ever this cold again in my life, something's gone fairly badly wrong.
All right, there you go. May I ask, yes, your name?
Hi, my name is Jacob.
Hi, Jacob. Which one is yours?
Well, I have so many questions for all of you.
Yeah, but you only get one, Jacob. So one in.
But my question's for the masterminds behind the show, George, David, and Dan. As the pacing of the show has really sped up and caught up almost to where A Dance of Dragons is, how will you go forward planning this throughout the next few seasons and years? As will it surpass the books as far as the timeline, or which one will end first? Are we going to wait?
Jacob, it's a fantastic question, and we can't answer without telling you what's going to happen. So, should we give Jacob an alternate question?
Yeah, you can ask one of the many other questions that you said you had, Jacob. So many questions you had, you asked the one we can't answer.
Oh man, well, how is it working in all of the different sets, and how do you manage to bring together all these different stories, twisting and turning into one great arc that just has an epic feel to it, and it's a real world, it's a whole world.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, how do you do it? Actually, well, I mean, it all starts in George's mind. It all started in George's brain. How many years ago, George? 30 years ago?
1991.
That is who's that. Fine, you're right.
And those characters, every single character sitting up here at this table started out in some dark region of George's mind.
Can I ask you, George, because George, you named all the places in Westeros. Why do they all sound a little bit like artisanal cheese farms? You got King's Landing, you've got Winterfell, you've got all of them sound like they make a fairly decent cheese.
I like cheese.
That's funny.
I don't know, naming things in fantasy is very hard. Not only do we have Westeros, but we recently came out with a map book where they wanted me to draw maps of the entire world. And we have The World of Ice and Fire coming out in October, which is like gorgeous. I'm drawing up maps for places like thousands of miles to the east where the story will never go. And I'm just running out of names. The Pointy Mountains,
the Pointy Mountains,
the Sharp, the Misty Mountains. No, Tolkien used the Misty Mountains. The really big mountains. You do the best you can.
You're doing very well, George. I didn't mean you to think I was criticizing.
wait.
Yes, it looks like we have an emissary from another kingdom.
Oh, that's a good Oberyn.
I'm Eric, this is Angie. First I want to say, do you know why all the world hates a Lannister? My question is for Pedro. Can you describe the process of preparing for the big battle episode 8?
You guys look amazing, by the way.
Yeah, very good. May I say, I think I speak on behalf of most of us here, Pedro, how delighted we are to see you intact.
The HBO team set me up with a master of wushu very early in the process, actually. Put me in into some training with a guy named Master Hu in Los Angeles. And then, of course, I was on set in Belfast doing extensive rehearsals with the C.C. Smith and the fight team, and Hapthorne, the other actor. And I had an amazing time. I mean, come on, guys.
I could ask the same actually of Nikolai, Gwendolyn, and Rory actually, and you're all a lot of fight scenes, a lot of very complicated and difficult looking fight scenes. Did you do that before the show? Is it a skill you learned in drama school, or is it? Or are you actually swordy in your life?
Yeah, I've always been really swordy. I was drawn to it when I was about 3-4 months old. Found I developed an aptitude with it, and then this part came up, and it seemed like my whole life was
a natural fit.
They train us really intensively. We work with an amazing, amazing stunt team, all of us, who are very patient and deal with us with a great deal of humour. Particularly me, who can be a bit slow. It takes a while for it to sink in. And you work hard, but it's always with the goal that you want it to be as brilliant as it possibly can be, and they facilitate.
You train for those scenes,
Yeah. Same for you, Nicholas?
Yes. I mean, I had a great teacher once called Dave Hugginman, who was just amazing. And that was years ago. He's in Leeds now.
In Leeds, you said?
Yes.
Right. You need a sword in Leeds?
I need a sword.
Yeah.
I do. But I think I was just going to say, because those two fights, what Gwen and Rory did, that was just, wasn't that just amazing?
Yeah, it was
I didn't go to drama college and I didn't learn sword fighting, but I grew up in Glasgow and we use swords, we use a thing called a chip.
Yes, I remember them well.
It's like a sword, but you know, it's got nails at the end of the stick. That seems to do the trick.
Yeah, I spoke to Gwen after your fight. She was
I love the Black Dinner and the Glencoe Massacre. I did both of those for the Red Wedding.
Good times.
But it's very true. I mean, I think that there was that silence that you're talking about that became very profound. And I think certainly for Ygritte throughout season 4, you know, she was on a ruthless mission. She was going to get her own back with Jon Snow. And I don't think she at all anticipated just how much she loved him. And just that hesitation seeing him again completely threw her. And I don't think she thought she went at all. And of course that was, you know, her last breath, as it were. But yeah, no, it was very beautiful. And we didn't really want to discuss much about it on the day when we shot it. We kind of just wanted to see how it would organically kind of flow.
Very nice.
So are you?
Yes, gentlemen in alarmingly ordinary clothing.
Hi, Natalie, and the rest of the cast.
I wonder who your question's for.
My question's for George. The one thing I've always wanted to ask you for years is, Hodor?
Hodor.
That's it.
Yes. Now I feel a little more comfortable. Well, hello to you. Hi, what's your question, girlfriend?
Hi, my name is Dan. My question is for Dan and Dave. Now that Stannis has arrived at the Wall, can we look forward to more scenes developing his character, or Stannis the Manus?
I think we can say yes.
Oh yeah.
In violation of our earlier, yes, we can say yes. You can.
Because I was going to say, then you have to say about what was going to happen.
Well, we can say he's a fascinating character, and he's amazingly well drawn by Stephen Delane, and we will be taking advantage of both the character and the actor in the season.
I'd be careful about that one. Does it worry you?
She has her moments.
She worries me. I don't think she's over.
Or any of us.
Hodor. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
my question is for George. I was wondering, with the show getting close to catching up with the books, what would you say to fans who are planning to stop watching the show once it gets into content from books 6 and 7, so that they can experience the story in its true format? Would you encourage us to just watch the show anyways, or would you encourage us to wait until the books comes out and then watch the show?
Yes, I encourage everyone to watch the show.
We'd like to announce we're here to ask you to stop watching the show until we're ready for you to start again.
I do also encourage people to read the books. You know, the question of, so you can experience the story in its true form, is kind of a loaded one. You know, I've said a couple times in posts the riddle, how many children does Scarlett O'Hara have? Scarlett O'Hara has 3 children in Margaret Mitchell's novel. Scarlett O'Hara has 1 child in the classic movie of Gone with the Wind. How many children does Scarlett O'Hara have? What's the true story? Of course, the true story is Scarlett O'Hara has no children because she never existed. She's a fictional character, and there are 2 wonderful classic ways of telling the story, and you know, that may be the situation. That is the situation. With the show is the show, and the book is the book. You know, who did Robb Stark marry? Did she marry a noble woman from Volantis named Talisa, who died at the Red Wedding, or did he marry a woman named Jane Westerling, who's still alive and will be seen in the prologue of Winds of Winter? Is one true, one not true? Well, you know, how many children did Scarlett O'Hara have?
How many parents does Jon Snow have?
Quick question. So, obviously the book and the show don't always go hand in hand, but there was a major character reveal that sort of happens at the end of book 3. And I was just wondering... Can't talk about that. Can't talk about it?
Blatant violation of the rules.
Get it. Get it.
We obviously can't help you with that. Somebody nip down there and staff him, would you?
Which is pointless about asking her, because she's the dumbest fucking
Yes,
thing.
hello,
You should never even
What are you doing?
She TARDIS.
Oh, it's you get the wrong panel.
I do what I can.
Right.
Anyway, one, you guys are all amazing, and thank you for sitting here and answering innate questions from us all day. But my question is for Sophie. I feel like Sansa Stark gets a lot of crap that she does not deserve.
No, she deserves it. She was a bitch to Arya.
And I've been enjoying my roommates all weekend, like Team Sansa all over the place. So I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit how you came to envision her journey from where she started to where she ended up at the end of this season, which was just amazing. And I think
Pin lady, what the
I'm
hell?
sorry for saying this, George, a little bit of a step up from.
And when you stop the other guy, stop her as well.
I never really, like, when I was like 13, I didn't really think, okay, this is where my character's gonna go, I'm just gonna end up on that. But when I started, yeah, I didn't have a plan for her. I just kind of, it sounds really gross and pretentious, but I kind of grew with her as an actress while she grew as a character. And then, I mean, it's really down to the writing of both George and, you know, David, Dan, Brian Cogman, Vanessa. And when I got the script through for season 4, it was like, it was such a relief, because for the past like 3 seasons, she's been deceiving with the facade of her former self for so long. And it was such a relief for me to finally be able to like shed the skin and become this somewhat manipulator that she actually is, from being, you know, at court with Cersei and Tywin, and she finally gets to reveal herself. And was freaking awesome.
No, you swipe left, right? Is that how it works now?
My question is for George. Everyone's asked about how the fight between Brienne and the Hound felt for the characters and the actors, but how did that separation from the book feel for you?
Well, it was a great scene. You know, that David and Dan have and the other writers, Brian Cogman was mentioned, he deserves a lot of credit too, have added some scenes that are not in the book. In part because there are no viewpoint characters present in every season that I've loved. The first season, the scene between Robert and Cersei where they discuss their marriage, not in the books, but a terrific scene. Second season, in the Blackwater episode, a wonderful scene, and Bronn confronts the Hound in the brothel, terrific scene. And I put the battle in the same category. It was just great television.
That's why I said he's better.
And it
He's better. I just like it. It's not Chris Hardwick.
Watch,
it's hard to follow Chris Hardwick.
You know, the things I mourn are for the most part the scenes that didn't make it. You know, I've been pretty open since before season 1 that I wish we had 3 more episodes a season. You know, it would give us parity with some other HBO shows and enable us to include some of the stuff that gets cut. But some of the stuff that gets added, particularly when it's as great as that scene, I love it.
Can I ask you all a question while we're here? Because there have been a lot of questions for George, obviously, about the separation of the books and the series. How many of you, perhaps by applause, have read the books? Have not read it. How many of you know the story of Westeros?
Yeah!
And I think that the information is interesting that I'm watching the separation of the two. I find it quite fascinating. Is there a loyalty between? Do people who have read the books, do you feel that you're more advanced and more a part of the world?
Yes!
It's a genuine question.
Yes!
Are you? I'm leaving San Diego today. Yes, Jack Sparrow.
First in line for the Pirates 5 panel, right here.